Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a dynamic effort lower day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like it down below, be greatly appreciated. So I'm going with what I did yesterday for speed bench, and we're going with heavier lifts. These are now heavy enough with compensatory acceleration because I am pushing and pulling as hard as I possibly can on every rep, that we will be seeing a solid training response from this beyond the speed, which also means I don't necessarily need to have as much total accessory volume, and I need to be looking at the recovery end, particularly when using bands, right? Particularly when using bands. So we're also doing these Olympic squat style. You guys notice, nice narrow stance using the squat shoes, getting deep. I've also done a 520 squat with this bar in the last couple of weeks doing this stance. So, we're in a good position. Actually, I almost want to see if I throw sleeves on what my max is with this bar. Because if I can max with this bar at whatever it happens to be, I should be good in comp, no matter what, with a similar weight with a straight bar, hopefully after a water cut and stuff. But we did 8 doubles, and I would like to do a little more, and I may work that volume up a little bit on these up to 10 or 12, but I just want to assess and see how it feels, because the quad activation was ridiculous, right? In fact, like I've said, I think at this point, especially doing the heavier dynamic work, between that and the sled drags, my quads are going to be handled. I need to be focusing on posterior chain adductors, all that stuff, which is working. Look at what's happened with my deadlift and stuff by focusing on those things, right? Look what's happened. And, that's going to be the fun thing with all this. My competition versions of my lifts are now basically an Olympic squat. I'm closed grip benching, conventional deadlifting. Like, no one can stand there and look at that and go, oh, that's just using all leverages to shorten range of motion, because it's not. I mean, if I walk in and straight up high bar squat, my lifts, closed grip bench, conventional, that's real strength, right? That's real strength. It's not about cheating leverages. It might be using the leverages that let me use the most force production, and that's what it's coming down to for me. It's not just the strength end, it's that I'm able to get the best force production and bar speeds with these things. All right, speed pulls. We did 10 singles. I didn't want to set up bands and stuff today. I just didn't want to mess with it. I wanted to get through this workout a lot quicker. I really didn't want to train today, so tinkering around with long setups wasn't something I wanted to do. I already have to load and unload the bars. I have to put all those plates on the reverse hyper that I'm going to have to unload. I just didn't want to mess with 2 different band setups today. I probably will next week. We'll mess with it more. But I just went straight weight again. And you know what? I feel like I get a good training response from that. And so the question becomes, why did I do singles? I did singles because I personally tend to be weaker on the first rep out of a 2 or 3 rep set. I tend to be slowest on a deadlift. I wanted more practice with first reps, getting pulled in tight for that first rep, because really that's the only one that's going to matter in comp. And for me on deadlifts, that is the case. So we need to make sure there's no way we have any stored energy, nothing done to where we're pulled into a groove better, because it's going to closer replicate what I have to do, in competition. And it is that first rep. So 10 singles really gave me a lot of setup practice. And that matters in this case. And, again, I pulled these as fast as I could. And I know they may not look lightning fast because you guys are used to me running much lighter weight for speed works. But the point is, it's moderate weight now. 425 is moderate for me. You guys have seen me pull over 600 a couple times recently without it looking like a true max. And like I said, I think this coming week I may test out and see where my deadlift is. We may go ahead and hit it hard, just get a good idea what we're capable of doing. All right, get a good idea. And I think since I'm going to, again, mitigate a bit of the accessory volume a little bit at this point, that I can get away with some of that a little bit more, right? I can get away with it just a little bit more. Same thing with the speed work, the way I'm doing it. I feel like recovery is a non-issue, and as long as I'm selective in what I do, I think recovery is not going to be an issue. Because if all my real work is in the max effort and dynamic stuff, and everything else is traction-based movements and stuff, other than, again, on max effort days, some floor pressing and good mornings, those are a little harder. But most of my stuff's going to be really traction-based. So it should be good. I just did 2 sets of hanging leg raises. Like I said, I haven't been doing enough ab work lately. Not a bad idea to just get more leg raises back in. I need to get good at these again. But they've been harder as I bulked up a little bit after this last meet. And even though I'm now cutting back down, and I feel confident I'll make weight, my only concern is the performance loss from it at this point, from the weight loss and refeed, not making weight. I know I'm going to make weight. We just got to do it the right way. So I'm going to have to get used to my weight slowly coming down as I get closer to meet instead of too much of a sudden drop. And, again, I think it would be better that way. Then I'll deplete all the glycogen itself at the end. But I do need to bring the water down a little bit. And the calorie deficit and more protein will help with that. Replacing some of the carbohydrate with protein will help with that. So after that, we did my normal setup of 5 sets of 10 on the glute ham raise, and then 5 sets of 10 plus on the reverse hypers. But everything after that was traction. So what I want is, I wanted no axial loading really at the end of the week here. I want to be able to recover this weekend, and I want to be able to hit a big squat and a big deadlift coming in this next week. Right? I want to see some good numbers. Again, I don't want to come in and just pull 605. I want to go for something, a bit bigger. I want to go for something that people look at and say, oh, now that was close to a max. Yeah, that looked heavy. But we don't want it to grind too hard. We want it to be pretty. We want it to be meet legal. But these felt pretty good today. I think because I didn't do good mornings first, they were easier. I noticed in the past on speed work days, though, these can be a little bit harder, but they weren't today. Granted, I didn't do the good mornings, but I've also found historically these are harder on speed day, even if I don't do good mornings, even if I do some rows or something between. And they weren't. That did not occur this time. So that tells me that my hamstring strength is probably improving. And keeping in mind I'm wearing shoes again for these, which makes them slightly harder because, again, it changes the moment arm. It's like the difference between a half a setting. So I'm pretty happy with getting the 5x10 without reaching failure at all. And the last rep was, obviously a little slower. We could tell that I'm close to failure, but we didn't get, to a grinder that was 1 rep away, right? We didn't see that today. So again, I'll take that as a positive sign that the hamstring strength is improving. It means hamstring development's improving. And as I've said, these are my go-tos. The longer I coach, the longer I lift, the more that I realize how much the glute ham raise and the reverse hyper carry over to the deadlift in such a phenomenal way. You add some rowing to that and you're pretty much good to go. Like this will build your deadlift. It really will. And I get people who will say, well, are there replacements for these? No, I don't really think there are. I'm not saying you can't do other movements to hypertrophy. I'm not saying you can't use other movements to build your deadlift. What I'm saying is the amazing stimulus you get on both of these movements, and they're both traction-based movements, which means we recover faster, is very difficult to replicate. It's very difficult to replicate the unique training response and recovery response we get. Try as you might, but, again, doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Now, okay, these getting a little easier. I'm going to keep stepping the weight up. I think I need to work up towards 600 pounds now. I feel like that, again, will bring my deadlift up further. All right. And this movement, this is probably, in my opinion, I'll just call it my opinion, possibly the best deadlift accessory there is. It's very hard to beat, mainly because it even trains your grip. All right, your grip does get trained when you go real heavy on this. But, again, it replicates all the movement of the deadlift itself in the lower body while putting you into traction. So similar stimulus in regards to the lower body, not necessarily all the lat isometrics and stuff, but very similar, but with a massive recovery component. And it's just such a phenomenal low back and glute builder, right? And I'm not saying it doesn't build hamstrings. We don't want to discount the hamstring component, but it really is about erectors and glutes. It also happens to, again, help with grip. When you start getting 500 plus pounds, you're having to grip those handles pretty hard to stay on there, to not get pulled down. So, again, all around deadlift builder. The only good mornings were good. And of course, I feel like the good mornings carry over to squats a lot. Again, if people were to ask me if we're doing MEDE, what are your go-tos for building a squat? If we're not addressing specific weak points. And I'm going to say, good mornings and sled drags. Good mornings and sled drags will work wonders. And isn't that largely what my training is based around right now? All right, we do good mornings. We do a lot of glute ham raises, reverse hypers, and sled drags. And I have elite numbers at this point. All right, practice what you preach. All right, guys, but that's really all I had to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.